coming up in just a moment, I'm going to be breaking down the main reason why the Texans only took one offensive lineman, Aireontae Ersery, in the 2025 NFL Draft. But before I get into that, the Texans, they made a move. They are claiming Jake Andrews. If you saw my earlier post, sorry, it's not David Andrews. It's Jake Andrews, formerly of the New England Patriots, a center guard combo. Did not play in 2024, played one game in 2023, but the connections are there. We know Nick Caserio, DeMeco Ryans, they love their connections. Jake Andrews played for Cole Popovich in college at Troy. So obviously Cole Popovich gets one of his guys, the new Texans offensive line coach, and you know, this is some more competition, and everything that I talk about in this video still rings true in that, you know, the Texans, they have guys up front that are going to compete, and they want to bring in, you know, a lot of guys into this room. Before they brought in Jake, they had 16 guys on this depth chart, on this roster for the offensive line. Now Jake Andrews, that adds 17. So the Texans, they're going to have a lot of competition up front for the offensive line after adding Jake Andrews. Now, let me tell you why the Texans only took one offensive lineman in this draft class. Welcome in to Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, why did the Texans only take one offensive lineman in the 2025 NFL Draft? That's actually the most common question I've been asked since the end of this draft across all mediums, right? YouTube, all my social medias, on Twitter, on Instagram. The number one question, why did the Texans wait until halfway through round 2 to take an offensive lineman? And then why did they only draft one of them? Well, I have the reasons coming up on today's show. Before we get into that, we are still on the road to 30,000 subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's hit that sub button so far in the past week. We are so close. We are 726 away from 30K. If you can help me, I want to get there before the end of the month. I know it's tomorrow, but I'm really trying to get there. So if you can help me out, help out a local kid from Houston who's trying to cover his team, go down and hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free, and you get Texans content all year long. So there's 3 reasons why they took only one O-lineman in the second round. First off, the guy they took, Aireontae Ersery. Maybe the best value offensive lineman taken in the entire draft. One of the best value picks probably by any team in the entire NFL draft. Aireontae Ersery was picked in round 2, pick 48. The Texans moved up to get him. And a lot of people were projecting, hell, even me, after night 1 of the NFL draft, I thought the Texans were going to take Ersery at 34. They end up passing on him. They go Jaden Higgins, but then they come right back around and they're able to still select Ersery. I thought it was an absolute steal that the Texans were able to do this. I mean, he's somebody who, coming into, you know, night 1 of the NFL draft, a lot of people were projecting, hey, maybe he goes end of round 1. The Texans are able to pick him up at 48. And across the board, a lot of draft experts loved Ersery. And one who I want to highlight today, Todd McShay, who I've been watching a lot of his draft content, this is what he had to say on Aireontae Ersery. The best 3 players on tape, if I'm just doing the traits and what they potentially could be if they put the right situation with the right coaching staff and continue to develop, I would say are Armand Membou, Aireontae Ersery, and Josh Simmons, and not necessarily in that order. Big guys who move like this don't fail. This guy moves well, and he's a big, big dude. He surprised me on tape because he's quick, and his knee bend, he can bend. I think he has the potential to develop into an elite pass blocker. In 2029, we will look back. Aireontae Ersery will be one of the top 3 offensive tackles in this class, and maybe the best or second best offensive tackle from this group. Very high praise from Todd McShay, who's been doing this for years. And I mean, across other, draft experts, I saw a lot of people have round 1 grades on Aireontae Ersery. He did really good this past year at Minnesota, a 3-year starter for the Golden Gophers. This past year, only 1 sack allowed, 3 penalties, a 77.5 PFF grade. I really do think the Texans got some great value with Ersery at 48. Somebody who I've mentioned a ton, Dane Brugler, who drops the beast every year right before right before the NFL draft, and it basically is a huge guide of almost every single draft prospect going into that year's draft. He actually had Ersery ranked ahead of Donovan Jackson, who I absolutely love. I thought they got great value at pick 48. But the real question is, why did they not decide to take another offensive lineman in this draft? They only did one. They ended up getting 2 receivers, but they only draft one guy on the offensive line. I'll break down why I think that is here in just a moment, but I want to hear from you. What is the confidence level in the Texans O-line going into 2025? Scale for me on a scale of 1 to 10. Let me know down in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break here, all good. Scroll on down and give me your answer. My confidence right now in the Texans offensive line is a 6. And that might seem low. That might seem high to some others. But I really can't, put that much faith into this offensive line until I see it out on the field. The guys on paper they have right now are not really exciting. They're not really somebody guys that I think really move the needle that much for this Texans offensive line. So I do wonder how this group is going to come together and if maybe a little bit more coaching, a better scheme from this new Texans offensive coordinator, Nick Caley, new offensive line coach, Cole Popovich, is really going to make a huge difference for this Texans offensive line going into the 2025 season. We'll break down some more coming up. I think the number 2 reason why they took one offensive lineman, I think they really believe in the new additions on this unit that they put up there, right? During free agency, they were very active. Yes, they traded away Jeremy Chuggs and Kenyon Green. They cut Shaq Mason, but they also added a lot of pieces here and there that were kind of under the radar. Laken Tomlinson being one of them, who has connections with DeMeco Ryans. We know DeMeco Ryans, Nick Caserio love their connections. Laken Tomlinson played with DeMeco in San Francisco, and DeMeco's already spoken very highly of Tomlinson. I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the starting guards for this Texans team in 2025. Another addition that they got was in a trade. They got Ed Ingram, the former first-round pick from the Minnesota Vikings, and maybe they believe in Ingram and say, hey, the Vikings didn't use him correctly, and he still has a lot of that potential that he showed coming out of LSU, and we can mold him into a starting offensive lineman. Another addition who I know they're very high on is Cam Robinson, the left tackle that was formerly of the Jacksonville Jaguars, then played for the Vikings last year, was a free agent. The Texans brought him in after trading away Jeremy Chuggs, and I could see a world where all 3 of these guys start at some point for this Houston Texans offensive line. I really do, because Cam Robinson at left tackle and Laken Tomlinson at right guard, those 2 I believe are already in play right now. If a game was to happen today, this is what I believe the Texans offensive line depth chart would be. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have Juice Scruggs at one of the guard spots and Jarrett Patterson at center. Hell, I know a couple people are really high on Ladarius Henderson, who was drafted last year out of Michigan. But this Texans offensive line right now, it's not going to wow anybody on paper. They really got to go out and prove it as a unit, as a group of 5, because the Texans, they have competition. And maybe, that's partly the reason why they didn't, because already, even after only drafting one offensive lineman, they also picked up a UDFA and Mr. Eli Cox. They have 16 offensive linemen on the roster right now. There's a lot of guys that are competing, which is good. But I said this in my video the other day. Are there any elite guys? Are there any guys who are going to, vie for Pro Bowl or be one of the top, players at their position at either guard or tackle or center? I'm not sure there is, right? Unless one of these young guys really steps up, or we get a resurgent year from like a Laken Tomlinson, a Cam Robinson. I don't think the Texans have any guy along the front 5 that is top 10 in their position going into 2025. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm, a little bit too harsh on the offensive lineman. I just don't see it where the Texans have that level of, elite guys, that level of guys who are going to be able to move guys off the line of scrimmage. My confidence level, like I said, is at a 6. I think the coaching staff has a long way to go and a lot of coaching up to do with this front 5, which is actually where we're going to get to in just a moment. I'll tell you the third reason why the Texans only took one O-lineman in the 2025 NFL draft. But before I do, if you want those draft hats, the ones that Jaden Higgins, Jalen Knoll, Aireontae Ersery were all wearing on draft night, you can get them right now. You go to our link right here, chatsports.com Texans hats. You can get the draft hats, or they have a ton of other versions, right? They have this one with the secondary logo. They have this hat right here with the flat bill. They have the all black hat like this. All different styles, all different sizes available. One more time, the link is chatsports.com/Texans hats. All of these hats are available over there on the website. Go do some window shopping and check it out with our friends over at Fanatics. Now, lastly, I think the reason they only took one offensive lineman in this draft is because they trust Caley and they trust Popovich, the new OC and the new offensive line, the new offensive line coach / run game coordinator. First, Nick Caley, 42 years old, started coaching in 2005. He's worked for 7 different collegiate programs. First NFL job was with the New England Patriots. He was a tight end coach in 2017, hired by the Rams in 2023 as their tight end coach, and now the offensive coordinator for your Houston Texans. He, comes from a very prestigious background, right? Working under some very, legendary coaches, worked with the Patriots, and then obviously worked with Sean McVay and that Rams staff that, seems to be pumping out head coaches left and right. Nick Caley could be a really good play caller for the Houston Texans this coming year. But one guy that's not getting as much attention that I think maybe should, Cole Popovich, the offensive line coach this year for your Houston Texans. He was the assistant O-line coach last year under Chris Strausser. 13 years of coaching experience. Spent 6 seasons with the New England Patriots alongside, you guessed it, Nick Caley. And you know who else was working with those guys? Nick Caserio as well with the New England Patriots. And the reports were that he didn't really have much say this past season as the assistant for the offensive line coach. All this stuff around the O-line and everything wasn't really his fault, that it was Chris Strausser and he was just playing a good soldier, which maybe you believe that, maybe you don't. But I do think this Texans coaching staff, this Texans front office is putting a lot of faith in Caley and Popovich to turn this Texans offensive line around. And the funny thing is, both of their mentors, I mentioned, New England Patriots, the ties there, both of them say their biggest mentor, their biggest idol that they were, working near in the NFL was this guy right here, former famous legendary Patriots offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia. So if they're able to bring everything that they learned from Scarnecchia over to the Houston Texans, I think that's a good, recipe to help remedy some of these offensive line woes for this Texans team and really get this unit on the right track, because Scarnecchia, he didn't always have the biggest and strongest guys. His philosophy always was, who do you have on your offensive line and how can we get the most out of those guys? Yes, he worked in certain schemes and they ran certain style of offenses in New England, but Scarnecchia is widely regarded as one of the best offensive line coaches to ever coach in this league. So if Cole Popovich, Nick Caley can take everything they learned from Dante Scarnecchia, who, John Gruden on Radio Row this past year at the Super Bowl talked with former Patriots coach Matt Patricia. He's talked with other, Patriots players like a Julian Edelman, Tom Brady, and they all say one of the keys to the Patriots always winning the Super Bowl or getting there and their just success in the 2000s was linked to this man right here. He actually retired at one point. The Patriots begged him to come back, and what happened after Dante Scarnecchia came back? Oh yeah, they went back to the Super Bowl with Tom Brady and a revived Patriots depth chart and lineup. I think maybe they're looking at Cole Popovich and Nick Caley and saying, hey, can you bring some of that? Can a little bit of Dante Scarnecchia rub off on you and you bring that fairy dust over to the Houston Texans and help us with our offensive line? It's a tall task. It's a big, huge, it's a huge work for Nick Caley and Cole Popovich. But, I believe in this Texans coaching staff. I believe in this Texans front office. And I really hope they can bring it all together and bring my confidence up with this Texans offensive line. That's all I have for you in today's show, folks. Make sure to hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. If you have any more questions, if you want to continue the conversation, my DMs are always open. And as I said at the top of the show, we're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. If you made it to the very end, I'm obviously doing something correct. So go down and hit that sub button for free Texans videos all year long. My promise to you is this. If you don't like this channel in a week, you can unsubscribe. But let me give you 1 week to prove myself that I am the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube and that you got to have those subs on.